Hello everyone, Master Xeon1001 here, and in this video I will be talking to you about the latest update, hardops 00985 Neodymium X hotfix _10. So typically whenever we release a major update for the first 24 to 72 hours, we will gather user complaints and attempt to rectify them in a rather accelerated manner in order to ensure that the experience for new users coming in is as smooth as possible. But after that, usually things will move on to the next release. So we've processed the majority of user complaints as well as tried to expand on functionality in this update in order to further the vision of what hardops Neodymium X _ is going to be. And I hope everyone is able to enjoy it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go over what's new. So the Kitops pop-up has received some improvements, and in order to demonstrate it, I will go ahead and enable box cutter, of course, in hardops second. And we'll go ahead and just press F in order to make this thing pop up, because in my Q menu, which we can bring up here, I actually have it mapped to F. So if you're interested in trying it like that in object mode, you can always just right click it, assign shortcut, and press F. And if you save your preferences, it'll be that way next time. F is kind of a dramatic hotkey to take over, so I was just doing it for a purpose of experimentation. Well, if we press F and bring this panel up, we can look at the Kitops panel, and I'll just jump to some of Chip's materials here. And now you'll see in the latest update that scrolling now feels more natural. Previously scrolling felt a little bit crazy, but now you can actually scroll a lot more naturally and actually scroll very quickly. There's also been some appearance changes. Previously there was a large title at the top with the name and along with the icon. There's also an area here with names of individual files, which we deemed to not be essential content, so we did make some changes there. So while you're looking at the window in this mode, I do want to show you guys how I configure the press for the style that I work, and that is I will go in preferences, and first we'll turn off modal background, drop shadow, cell border, and then we go over to color, and I'm going to go for this one. We're just going to turn the alpha all the way off, and I really enjoy this predator view. However, whenever I'm hovering over the window, I don't like seeing the highlight, so I'll go to the highlight color and I'll tune this down. And this was something I actually want to do for the update in order to curate the experience to be more optimized for how I wanted you to see it, but I feel that configuring everything just for this particular Kitops UI may not have been the most efficient. I also wanted the thumbnail here capable of being a little bit larger. However, this is something that we'll be revisiting and more likely we'll be able to accomplish in the future. Also, per the request of Chip, we added the name of the insert here, so that way whenever you're scrolling through, it's something like this. So to just kind of show you how this thing works in action, because we did give a little bit of thought to the functionality. However, I must add that this panel was literally made at the very last minute, because I did want something additional in this update that users would enjoy that would be associated with something not related to hardops. And also, Kitops is about to be receiving an update pretty soon, so I wanted to begin setting the stage for that. So we can just control click this, and you see how it placed the material from Chip's material pack on the model, but the panel went away. If we press Q and we actually shift click this, it will keep it up, and we can actually scroll this, control click, scroll it, control click. We can actually go to some of these other packs like Chip's metal and just scroll through it and just look at various combinations and just control click in order to apply this to the mesh. And so this way is definitely a lot better way to approach Kitops when it comes to handling it previous to before. I'm sure that you guys will have your complaints. You may want your banner back or something like that. We could talk about putting it on a toggle or something. But with this particular update, we did want to focus on making this more utilitarian and more useful to you, the users. So if we go ahead and just toggle hardops off, toggle it on again, we can bring up the panel pretty much the way it was with the UI the way it was. So if we go in here and we press Q and adjust the bevel, you can see that the color is just black. So I like to go in here actually and locate the color, and I put the cell background color first because this is where you want to set your color that will set the tone for all of your hardops experience. So now we see that I'm getting a little more purple. I probably want to brighten it up, try to get a more vibrant pink. And now we have something more youthful going on, which is definitely what I want you to experience. However, you can also set this to your favorite color. I mean, it doesn't have to be pink. I've been making a bunch of jokes about the color pink and running it lately and telling everybody that I'm going to do the next demo using the color pink, but I just want to show that this is a way that we intended for you to kind of customize your experience. Customization was something that was a bit of a theme in previous versions of hardops, and I wanted to bring that back even stronger so that users would want to at least set their favorite color for their UI and just kind of have hardops be the way that they've always wanted it to be, versatile and everything. However, there's a whole lot more to what we have planned for hardops as far as our expansions with it, and the fast UI that you see here is pretty much just the beginning of the solution. However, the end is definitely going to be us going in and dealing with arrays, which that's something I'll be talking about next. So Lattice had also received some improvements as well. One of them is that whenever you select the lattice as an option, it should select the lattice after the operation. So if we press Q and go under Add Modifier, we can choose lattice, and you can see that now the lattice is selected. Previously it would keep the mesh selected and just add a lattice, which is kind of strange because a lattice is not so easy to select, if you know what I mean. The next thing in addition to that is that if you press Q, there's now options here where instead of adjusting the spans through the menu itself, you can click on these and it'll actually jump into a modal that will let you adjust how many segments there are on each axis. So right here we can actually adjust the amount of segments on the Y, and we can adjust the amount of segments on the X without having to bring up a whole operation. And so with that, lattice is definitely now a lot friendlier to use, and I can't wait to begin using it in content again. But just to kind of show what I was going for with it is that now you can just get up here, move your object, jump in, take your points, rotate them, and then just add more segments to your lattice as needed in order to get a particular form. So right here we have an issue going on in the center, and I'm curious as to why it's happening. So let's actually bring back the lattice, and we will actually reduce the amount of segments on the Y. We'll reduce the amount of segments on the X. And then we select it, Shift H, and we have it looking pretty good, except for the little bit of shading happening there. So if we just go in here and we adjust our auto smooth, it looks like it's already set to 15. Right here, it's already at 15. So we will just alt click the weighted normal in order to see if that does any improvements. And more than likely there's actually a little angle that was cut here, and it's just being stretched that thin. So let's Ctrl Tab, and we will turn on viewing this modifier in edit mode. Sometimes I like to just have a little fun clicking these, not for weighted normal but for curve. And we'll just jump up here and press SZ. And now that angle is held a little more properly. And so we'll select this one as well, SZ, scale it down, and now we have our piece that's more impervious to the lattice that was being used on. A popular request from one user was having the ability to have a Q menu for text. It was kind of a no-brainer. We have a Q menu for everything. We should have one for text. So now if you press Q, you have an option to adjust your spacing. You have an option to adjust your extrude. You can adjust your offset, and you can adjust the amount of bevel. So now you can get in and play with your text and just have a good time. And as a little bonus tip to just show something else that's been added to hardops is if we take this text, select the surface, press Q, and choose difference, we have now done a Boolean operation of text into this cube. Right here we see that it didn't work out, so we'll just go in edit mode and add a loop cut right there, and we can see that this text was able to be cut into here using a Boolean operation. Of course, what happened is during the Boolean operation we converted it into a text object and simplified it in order to cut it into the surface. So if you're about to ask, hey, can I go in and tab into edit mode and adjust my text on my Boolean? Of course the answer is no, but you can of course go back to the original text object, which is right here, and just tab and type in something else and cut that in as well. So that is text in hardops. It's received a small improvement. So here we are in ST3 Array, in a free rotation mode. So in the event that we wanted to begin adjusting this without resetting things, for example, if we were to just hold Control, it would reset things to our cursor. But if we put our cursor inside the circle and hold Control, we are then able to adjust this array from where it was. And we can roll the wheel, and that's good and all. However, if we were to press Tab, we can go into expanded mode, which is the expanded version of ST3 Array, which makes this so unique. The interesting thing about this latest update is that you can now scroll over the parameters in order to change them, as far as distance, if it's relative or constant, and even the axis that it's on. However, it's not going to change the axis on the fly. To do that, you would need to actually reset the array. So we can see here that we can actually remove the current array with Ctrl A. However, we can clear the current axis offset and click on this, change the axis offset, and begin making adjustments. However, if we wanted to completely reset this array, we can clear the axis again, we can change the axis and clear it again, and you can see that every time I clear it, it actually puts the array on a different axis. And so once we hold Control and begin moving it, it actually begins making a lot more sense. So a lot of users have written back saying that they've enjoyed quite a bit of things with Radial Array and the new ST3 system. However, they encountered some issues with using it with Emulate Numpad. So the hotkeys VBN is now available for you to be able to cycle between radial, twist, and standard. An important thing to note is that in order to remove your array, say you notice that I'm able to go to radial and twist very easily, and you can see the modifier list here updating dynamically. However, if we were to go back to standard, you see that nothing actually changes, and this is actually intentionally by design. For reasons at this time, it is more sensible. I'm still working on my understanding of it. If you do want to remove it while you're in standard mode, you can press Alt A in order to clear it, and then from there you can just hold Control while your cursor is inside the circle and begin adjusting the array. So to change the axis on the fly, you would just be moving your array, press Ctrl X, change your axis, press Ctrl X, change it again, and this is the ideal way for you to use ST3 Array, and it doesn't even require that you come into this expanded system. However, this is a system that we wanted to have included in this particular version for you guys to experience, and a lot of people have already written in wondering about other additional tools that will be in this particular system, so we'll definitely see what happens in the coming future. However, I am excited as far as what we have planned for where to go with this. Both the ST3 Array and the classic Radial Array now have support for you to be able to press R in order to adjust the amount of rotation that's in the Radial Array. So we'll just go ahead and press 2 in order to jump this to Radial Array, and we can actually press R in order to see this as 180, 90, 30, 45, and then 15, and then reset it back to 360. Another interesting thing about Radial Array that I find to be quite interesting is that if you hold Control Shift, you can actually move this around on the mesh. And this is a very interesting way to actually approach Radial Array, and it's something that I'm excited for how it'll progress in the future. We can see in this case that we have a little bit of a snafu there. In fact, I can probably assume that this is happening due to it sitting precisely on the surface, so it could have something to do with my origin here. So we can just click to apply it and actually just grab this and bring it down, and now we're back in business. So just know that cutting precisely on top of a plane is going to have issues when it comes to booleans. However, I'll draw another Radial Array here, and we'll just shift it to live, and I'll place the 3D cursor here, and we'll go under Mesh Tools in the Q menu, and I'll press Control in order to array around the 3D cursor, and we have our Radial Array here. And this is good and all. We can of course press D in order to adjust the displacement amount. We can press D to lock it. This sort of control is very nice. However, we also are able to rotate the view in it, which is strange to see in one of our classic fast modals, but this one definitely opened our eyes to the idea. And also we get more people asking about things like, can I rotate the view while I'm adjusting the array, which in terms of how we are looking at things now isn't such a bad idea, so we'll see what the future holds. But continuing on, we'll press R, and now we're at a rotation of 180, R again, a rotation of 90, 60, 45, 30, and back to 360. So just know that now if you need to have a radial array that's actually 180 degrees instead of 90, you can do that. In fact, with this radial array, we can just select the empty and just go in here and adjust these numbers. That's a weird number. You know what? We'll just divide it by 2, and now it's 180. And then we go in and divide it by 2, and now it's less. So now you get the idea. So if you wanted to get control of the radial array ever, you could always just right click and delete your driver, and then you can actually radial array exactly how you would want, which is basically how I was getting back control before. But this does cause a few implications when it comes to going in and adjusting it. Like we go back into radial array, we can see that the empty is being set back to how we need it, and if we select it, we can see that its driver is back. So we get rid of the driver, we can now get this to radial exactly how far we wanted, but I believe you get the idea. So someone discovered an issue where if you have your shape off center and you do a boolean like so, and then you do a boolean to this boolean, actually not like that, like so, and then you perform something like late parent, you're unable to keep the child with it, and it looks like that is still a damn problem. However, you can actually select everything and select the target and then use late parent. It'll actually parent them all to the mesh. So in the meantime, there is at least a solution to help you make it through the situation. Of course, we'll need to sharpen this box so the shading looks correct there. But now there is at least an improvement for late parent and Bool Parent. However, on that same thread, if we go into Ctrl tilde helper, under Bool options, there's an option for Bool sharpen parent bool shapes. And what this means is that if you were to, let's delete this, we'll Shift A, add a cube, but we'll press Alt V and jump into EVHQ just so it looks better. And so we'll duplicate this cube, cut it in, it's already parented. And so if we duplicate this one and also cut it in, it inherited the parenting from the duplication. So it's a little bit harder to test in this case. Let's just Alt P and remove our parenting. And we're just going to continue on setting up our booleans here. We'll remove the parent from that too. So just move it around, and you can always just either go and use late parent, which as I use it, I found it to be a little far and also redundant. So now if you activate sharpen, you can use sharpen plus late parent, and it'll tell you how many booleans were parented out of how many booleans existed on the model. And this is just a really quick way to just get in there and do it. So it just expands on the utility of sharpen, and that can actually be toggled in the Ctrl tilde menu here. So you can just press Ctrl tilde, bring it up, turn it off and on as you need it. If it becomes problematic, we may split it out into its own property. However, parenting is something that I'm going to try to curtail early on in the workflow, since I do see that users are having a bit of issue with it. And so there's parenting, and then there's late parent, and then there's just sharpen plus late parent. So I'm happy to be announcing that this is now in the latest version of hardops, ready for anyone to give a try. So AR added Modal Weld to hardops. However, Bonjorno took a look at it and realized it was possibly needing some improvements and refined it. So we'll just draw a quick box here, and this is just kind of how I've been playing with Weld, is I'll just create a solidified box and then just, sorry, didn't mean to go under Solidify, and then I'll just go under Weld here and just move the mouse to the left until it disintegrates, just to see how it looks. And then I'll press Alt C and look at it and just think about it. In fact, sometimes I'll get weird and cut the area, which causes issues because, you know, it's just a terrible mesh situation. We go in here and turn off Weld and everything's hunky-dory. But now if you're needing a weld to be a little bit more dynamic, that now has been added in this latest version of hardops, as well as the help has been updated to properly reflect what is going on here. So Circle has also received some improvements in hardops. Circle is one of those anomalies. The circle that currently exists in hardops is one of the few tools that hasn't been rewritten by anyone since it was originally written by me, strangely. In fact, most of the tools in hardops that you see have been rewritten to some extent. In fact, the tools that are still left that are written by me are actually what I refer to as legacy tools. So Circle is one of the oldest legacy tools. However, due to some netting selection issues with the way that Blender kind of changed selection, there were some issues that happened, and I've went over it a couple of times in previous videos, but to just walk users through the process, because anytime that people report an issue with the circle, I just go in and I do it manually like I used to, where I just add a bevel with Ctrl Shift B, I roll the wheel a couple of times, and then I click, and then right here everything goes wrong. And so the solution for this involved actually hiding everything and then selecting by the amount of sides, which is something I just wasn't preparing to go for. In fact, the solution I was plotting was, what if we just remove this thing out of here and just forgot about it? However, Co was more adamant about finding a solution for it. In fact, as I go under these menus here, it brings me back to old times of looking through these menus here. So we'll activate it by faces by sides, and we're looking for maybe 4, and then we can I guess F to fill it, and then we can right click and turn this into a circle. And then when we unhide everything, which at this point isn't the best idea, so we might as well do what we're going to do here, which is extrude, inset, extrude, and then we can Alt H unhide everything. And that is how Circle works now. So previously it was having some issues right here. Sharpening is having some issues. Let's go in and adjust that. In fact, we can turn off global, and that will no longer override the auto smooth settings that I had set before, keeping the shading exactly where I had it. So if we look at the top here, I can show further improvements that have been made to Circle inside of hardops, where if you go under operations and you control click, it will now give you checker dot circles. And so to make this a proper tutorial, actually explaining the kind of ins and outs of how Circle tool works, I might as well show you guys as well that if you press Ctrl tilde under operator options, this is where you can set your division count. Right now it's not dynamic enough for you to be able to set your divisions inside of the operation. This is why I'm always challenging people to rewrite this, and everyone has a different idea of it, and every idea is not my favorite idea. Just put it the least way. I just want something that just turns a vert into a circle, and so currently this solution is my favorite one. And you see here that by raising up the amount of subdivisions, it was able to come out a lot better. So now whenever you test hardops, be sure to give that circle a try, and you should notice that it's performing exactly as it's supposed to. Long ago we had a tool in hardops called Bool. However, that tool had some issues in the past, so it had to be removed. So the idea was revamped through an idea called Boolean shift, where you can actually shift a Boolean into any other type of Boolean, which was actually executed by Bongiorno. So if we go in here, we could start with difference, which is the de facto way everybody wants difference, However, you could also go under Booleans and interactive Boolean and just roll through all the combinations of Boolean that you want to go through. In fact, you could press tilde and your UI will follow the mouse, where you can just really look at it and decide what type of operation that you want to do. Previously, there was an issue where I felt there was one click too many in order to complete this operation. You know me, I'm pretty vicious about getting rid of clicks. So that has been fixed. This right here was what's called interactive Boolean, where we scroll through all the different ways that a Boolean could take place. However, with this shape selected, we can press Q and we use something called Shift Bool, which will actually let us change this into any operation. It falls onto slash because slash is typically what Bool used to do. So in a way, Shift Bool took over for the job of Bool. However, the added bonus is that you can just scroll through infinite combinations, well, not infinite, 5. You can scroll through these combinations of what type of Boolean you would want, ranging from inset to outset to slash to difference to union to intersect to clearing it, which just puts you back where you started, so you can maybe even do another operation. However, now whenever you click, you are done with the operation, reducing the amount of clicks required in order to complete this operation. So I'm happy to announce that curve has been improved in this latest update. So users were very hypersensitive to the fact that whenever you used the curve, it would not turn the wire display off, and so they had to go and look for that. So that just shows how important it is to not have hotkeys being wasted or clicked. So right here, I just duplicate an area of it to just break off, and we're just going to go under operations, hit it with the curve extract, and this is our result. And as you can see, there's no wires. We can press S to toggle smooth shading. We can press W to turn wires off and on. We can toggle it back off, and then click to apply, and that is the new curve extract without the wire showing. So in closing, now I can say that hardops is now in a state that I'm quite pleased with. A lot of the bugs that were reported were definitely things that needed to be rectified pretty rapidly. So now we can just casually have some fun with the tool here. And of course I'm using Box Cutter 7.1V, the last release. Sorry about before. So if we press Alt V, we can actually turn on EVHQ and just begin messing with things. So people always ask me about how I get the shading on the edges of the mesh whenever I'm cutting, and that is EVHQ. If we jump back down to LQ, Blender looks rather vanilla, and so we can't actually just change your startup file to make things look cooler. I mean, we could give you a startup file or something, but really the next best thing is to just make a preset to just jump to it. User Flothar complained about EV, LQ, and HQ leaving the shading on, looking exactly the same in the viewport. So now, if you jump to EV, HQ, it's on all the shading. So as you cut, you can see the surface is kind of having this pre-beveled look. In fact, as we add a bevel, it actually looks even better. However, you can see that the shading breaks down right here with the bevel. And at that point, that's when I like to bring up Q and Alt-click sharpen in order to put a weighted normal on it. Alternatively to that, you can of course go under the add modifiers and just click on weighted normal, which will now add it. And then if you don't want to keep sharp, you can press F9 and just toggle that back off. So continuing on, earlier I was actually taking this through a trip, just kind of checking the tools and seeing how things performed, and I was actually quite pleased with how everything kind of played together like poetry. It's been a long journey to actually get our vision for Hopsin 2.8 to get to where we want to, but I feel that now there's a good time to be had when getting in and getting used to the tool. So right here I'm actually just cutting some boxes, just my favorite way to start the day. And we'll go in edit mode, and I'm just going to control click sharp in order to add a bevel here, and we see that because of the placement of the bevel, this isn't going to work out. But have no fear, we can now hold shift and actually move that mod up the stack in order to get it exactly where we want. And then when we come out of edit mode, we're now dealing with this actually looking the way it's supposed to. So it was a good idea for us to finally have the ability to jump around mods visually and begin adjusting them. It was something that was definitely on the list. Being able to convey information to the user was definitely the #1 goal of this release, which is why when you use something like sharpen, it gives you all the information possible, because if you're a pro user, you have the option to turn it off. But if you're like me, you might want to have it on all the time in order to just kind of have a mental awareness of your situation and be in control of it. But continuing on here, one of my favorite things about this release that I just love in the Fast UI the most is pressing Alt-M and actually control clicking material scroll. Whenever you're in material scroll, Proxy doesn't like the material list on the side because he feels it cheapens the magic of the materials, and he has a point there. And we'll press H to turn off help because I don't need help. I'm where I want to be. But when you scroll to will, it's just the icon, it's just the number, it's just looking great. You're just looking at these blank materials. And then of course you can press tab to jump into rendered mode and actually see what these materials are that you're getting. And so this has become a lot of fun for me, where I'll just go in, get a blank material, go back into render mode, slice an area out, go back into blank material, control click it, and I've actually become so addicted to control clicking it that I've been thinking about just making blank material scroll a possible toggle for that area so that you can just jump into it naturally, because with every hotkey that we add, I feel a little bit of pain inside. I know that there's users out there that just don't like hotkeys, that want to have everything on the left mouse click, and that's an experience that I'm pretty adamant about getting to fruition. And there's a talented team at assisting with bringing this all together. And so even based on the prototypes, on the things leading up to what we're looking at now, some very promising results were found. And so this release is just to really just get that pressure of working, out of our system, so we can release and relax and then go back to the drawing board maybe afterwards. But it's important after each release to kind of have a bit of a cool down period to analyze and reflect on the accomplishments of the previous release and just figure out what are the next goals to go to from there. However, everyone likes the idea of going from release to release, which is something that I just can't do. I do enjoy spending quite a bit of time just testing the tools. In fact, that's what this time is now, just a good time for us to just get in and just do a tool test. So we're just cutting boxes and just thinking about things. So here we are, we have a situation, right? So people write me about this all the time. And what I'll do is I'll go in my helper and I will set my angle to something like 15. And I'll say, 15 does pretty good. It catches this angle. So then what I'll do is I'll go into Bevel and press A, which will set the bevel to the value of the auto smooth. However, you can see right here that the auto smooth isn't actually looking that good. So then I press 1, which changes the auto smooth back to 30 or 60. And so now that we're at 60, but our bevel is set to what our previous auto smooth was, we have the bevel catching the correct edge, but the auto smooth actually looking adequate. And I feel that that is probably the best shot I have at actually explaining that concept. I realized that I was doing it so fast and so often without thinking, and that I wasn't addressing it, and I apologize for that, because it definitely is something that I find important because I do it all the time. But if you're working with like slants and angles and wedges coming soon, that's the sort of situations you'll be running into. But when it comes to dealing with them, I like to set the auto smooth to exactly the shading I want and then just dial it back. So it comes in really handy on spherical models if you're trying to work non-destructively and you just want to catch that least minimal angle in order to do your cutting. So continuing on, we'll select this, Control click, jump through infinite materials combinations. Just love it, can't get enough of it. However, material scroll is lonely. We have so much more additional assets to material scroll, to blank material that we could be adding. However, you are able to go in here and also change the type to go through glass. And right now I'm just going through materials that are already existing in the scene, just looking for one I like. And so this is our box so far, right? And we're just 7 minutes in. Like I said, a box is just a warm up. So we'll just select this, Alt X, mirror everything to the other side. And we look at this shape and we see that the shading got broke. So if we go in and adjust the bevel, we can see that everything is right. And that's because bevel also just has corrective properties to it, where it will just correct your modifier stack order, which was actually what it was your weighted normal had a mirror modifier sitting on top of it. So anyways, continuing on, what I like to do from here is grab the objects and move them up, and well, that's not going to work out. So the next thing is to go in here and we don't want to sharpen it, because we're not trying to adjust our auto smooth or our shading. We're not trying to do a hard surface smooth. We just need to do our parenting. So late parent, booleans total 65, parented 15, and we can move. We're on the move, guys. We're free. So we're just going to move this up. I'm just going to tab into edit mode, grab this face, bring it down, and this is our shape so far. I'm going to shift A, add an empty, and we'll just select everything. Select the empty, Alt X for mirror modifier, modifier mirror. We'll just mirror it down, and nothing worked out there. So let's take a look at what we have here. I'm just going to press B, select it all, and we'll just go under our Q menu under operations, and Smart Apply will work. Smart Apply will apply everything except what we don't want applied, which is weighted normal and last bevel. So the remaining modifiers is bevel and a weighted normal, just like I said. And so if we mirror it down here, we now have it where we want it. However, everything's real now. Everything's mirrored to the other side as real geo. So we do want to, of course, correct that. So we select everything, Alt X, or let's try it again, Alt X, mirror to the other side. Everything's real, but also fake. And if we look at this, the shading broke off because of the weighted normal being out of order. So anytime we just go in and adjust the bevel, a small course correction will happen. And so a lot of these things are kind of decisions made based off of comments and complaints. I get a lot of people who, will struggle with a tutorial, and I'll be just kind of contemplating as I'm staring at the wall, kind of, how we can help this person or why they're experiencing an issue. I'll just kind of be mentally walking through the workflow in my head of the solenoid, because the solenoid is supposed to be the easiest example, and yet people seem to have a bit of a time with it. And it's nothing against the person using it, it's more against me, I'm assuming, as a tool creator and a curator, because like for example right here, the glass is hitting the wall, so it's causing a bit of Z fighting. You can't quite see it, but okay, you can see it right here. And I hate that. I can't rotate this model and show it to people with Z fighting here. It just looks terrible. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and click on Solidify, but I'll press 2 in order to, and I'll turn on help for this. I'll press 2 in order to set the offset to 0, so we're pushing both ways. But I don't want the other side of the glass, so I'll press R to do only rim. So now we have kind of this swollen glass. So this is like the result so far. And so in light of Lord Aloof, I'll press Q, and we'll go into operations, and we'll use to shape, which will give us one for both of our things because the bevel and the mirror was applied, However, if we were able to get this to go to individual, that would also be nice. However, let's see if we can do that. Let's go in here. Actually, this piece is so much extra than what you think it is. So let's smart apply. We'll select this, remove it, select this, mirror it to the other side, and now let's try using to shape. So didn't work. Individual, equalize, modified. So modified is the one that you need to turn off in order to get to shape, in order to conform to an individually mirrored aspect of a model. So the answers are definitely there. Like I saw a comment that said, if MX has experienced it as a problem, more than likely it's been automated into a tool. And that one made me laugh because that's pretty much our work process. It's like, is this something that irritates us throughout our process? If so, can we automate it, make it less clicks, make it easier and easier for users to comprehend? Because we definitely care about the pro users, but we're definitely not trying to be exclusionary to users who are new to the program. And with the influx of new users coming to Blender 2.8, it's definitely made us have to reconsider a lot of our pro level strategies and things like that. In fact, a lot of the time we'll kind of just stop each other and say, oh, talking very pro right now, bro. Talking real pro. People aren't going to understand that. There's a lot of pro talk in there because you start having hotkeys and when I bring up support issues with people and they say, oh well, so and so should have probably understood this, I typically reply with, well, they don't, and also we must assist with that understanding because we must supplement their understanding to explain how to properly best use the tool. So, when we leave things vague or open-ended or requiring preliminary software understanding, I do see how those sort of things are problematic. And so I just want y'all to know that we are taking steps towards addressing these things internally. And so Smart Apply, just great every time. I love Smart Apply. I'm not trying to be in a video here saying that I love my own feature, but whoever wants to rewrite this and make it better, you're welcome. But it's good. It's good for my needs. In fact, we mirror this to the other side, and this thing is coming along. So I'm actually trying to recreate a GIF I made earlier on Twitter. I was just goofing off, and I just made a big C out of this. So we'll select everything, and we will just go under here and choose to shape. And it's not individual, or else we get an individual shape per object. It's for modified, and modified's off and equalize is off. And just so you know, you can get a shape of anything, even a monkey. I could get a monkey to fit inside of this cylinder, but we're going for a cube. And with our cube here, we're just going to bevel it. And this is what we're doing. And we'll just go under modifier, hit a solidify, press 2 to push it out. Now it's encompassed. Now we can go under blank material and give it a glass. And maybe a alt click for a weighted normal will assist us with our shading here. But now we've kind of created this glass box. So I am quite happy with how hardops is at this moment as far as me being able to get through these particular tool tests, as I call them, of just testing the limits of what's going on here. However, the bevel flipping out like that's not going to work. So we collapse all our mods here. We can see that possibly moving the bevel above the Boolean and moving it above the Solidify might be assistive towards this thing. So now we have our shape. Pressing numpad 5 to look at it. And so if we want to get our shading to look even better, we'll control click material scroll and we'll just roll through some combinations, and 3 materials later, you got me. That's a good one. So to finish off this demo, we'll select everything. We'll use Smart Apply again. And keep in mind that every time I'm using Smart Apply, it's basically applying everything except what I need not applied. So now we can actually just go under Dice, and Dice is actually under Mesh Tools. And once we're here, we can press something like 3 in order to give it 23 segments, or 4 to give it 31. And we'll press tilde because I want the full UI on this one, so that way I can see what method is in use. But when you're in the fast one, we assume when you're in the fast micro UI, we assume that you don't even care about that information. But we could press tilde, and we want to press Q to change it to mesh intersect. Thank you to the help for letting us know this information. And let's click and let this operation go through. So now we have our shape. I saw some lines for a moment. I know I saw some lines. We won't talk about that. However, I will press Ctrl A and apply location of everything. Believe me, you'll live longer if you do that at this point. And let's just Shift A, bring in a circle. And we'll look at it from the front, and we'll just press R90 to rotate it 90, and we'll scale it up. And this is what we have so far. And so we'll select the object, select the curve, press Ctrl P, and curve deform. And now this object's deforming along the curve. However, what we want to do is press Alt P and clear and keep transformation, which actually allows the curve to deform it, but allows us to scale the curve to have an individual deformation control, because otherwise we would be scaling the object as well. And that lets us scale it to get a really interesting shape like this. And I don't know, just something about dicing and deforming these shapes that was formerly just a really complex box is just something that reaches out to me. And so I definitely hope everyone's enjoying this latest version of hardops. I can't wait to be getting back to you with content that actually isn't about boxes or updates, which is my goal internally. My goal is to stop worrying about updates and just get back to showing you guys why all these updates were done, because believe me, the game is completely changing every time that these tools are being added and enhanced. I mean, something like dice started off as something so linear, but has expanded into big dice, into sectional dice, into point-to-point dice, and all of these things will come in handy for dealing with odd surfaces and strange angles when it comes to getting your surface under control and performing deformation and micro adjustments. In fact, if I wanted to just be completely weird, we could just look at this from the side and, you know, let's select a mesh, and there's a curve in there. Smart Apply. We didn't get an error because a curve was in there, which was what I was looking for, because those sort of things I'm on the lookout for. We'll just select a couple of points, and with confidence we can just go in Circle E and press I, and just keep in mind I just literally applied this curve. My curve is no longer in control. This is a most regrettable gesture, but if I wanted to just get in and just start detailing things, I can. In fact, let's hide that piece. Let's get in here and look at this thing, and anywhere I can force a point, I can force a circle. And Vert Circle now has text drawing to make it more official that I am the champion circle maker of the hardops team, at least. You know, come fight me, bro. I dare you to make a better circle. It has to be organic. It has to be just like this one. I can't use booleans. Those are the rules. So continuing on, we're just going to cut here and make a circle there, and we'll just scale that down And voila. So already we're just adding a little micro detail. We'll press Alt H, bring everything back, press 1 to jump to collection 1. I'm sorry about my key frequency with hotkeys. Sometimes I can get a little hyperactive, but I'm working on it. So with that, we can go ahead and wrap up this video, and I hope everyone's enjoying this latest update. If you run into any issues, by all means, feel free to drop by our Discord and drop a message in our bug finders channel, or support or help. I'm literally losing my mind from personal one-on-one messages with people, and individualized bug reports. There has to be a better way. But with that, I'll wrap up this video, and I'll see you guys next time.